it wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
Jesus, I say that.
China? China. Have to have my China.
Don't be creepy. Don't be creepy.
Aren't I a good guy?
And the box is full of Pepe. China. People from China, they love me.
Cow. Cow.
Zuckerbucks, Facebook,
Okay. Since I see that people are still gathering, I think we're just going to do the same thing I tried to do here on the first try of the stream today. So let's listen to some comedic poetry, if you will. Uh-oh, I don't have a body. We do have 10 likes, though, so we do get to keep Bacula.
It's a hard thing putting you in the ground, Marianne. It is I who should be asleep under all this black ground, not you. For it was I that set in motion the curse on nature that damned us all. To deny the very thing that breathes life into our hearts is to deny all mankind the possibility of love. My own cowardice in the face of true love has brought you to this ignoble conclusion. I cannot bear it! How can your heart be still while the earth continues its rotation? What cruel force spins us round on this day when all should stop to join in your stillness? Cannot the earth forestall its diurnal course, but for a while so that we can all share your eternal sleep? Oh, that I could make it so! Like Prometheus, I would be chained for eternity to the coldest rock, while eagles tear at my flesh in exchange for just one more breath of air from your sweet, innocent lips. Oh, shoot, Marianne, I don't know what to say. I've never been much for words. It just don't seem fair, you down there and me up here. It just ain't fair. Oh.
I thought I would find you here.
Cynthia. Oh. Oh, you tried to warn me. You did? It was Winston, wasn't it?
Please, Devin, he is but a boy.
A boy. A boy, a man, a child, an infant, a fetus, a girl, an eagle, a vegetable. What does it matter? There's a clear difference between right and wrong. Am I right, Cynthia? Oh, it seems we don't have anything to say to each other.
What about the beach? Did that mean nothing to you?
It meant everything. I love you, Cynthia. I will always love you. But this will not stand. No. This will not stand!
Devin! Please! Come back! Devin! 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 Devin!
Okay. Alright. There we go. Started off the Doom with a little silliness. That was from The Spoils of Babylon. It's actually produced by Will Ferrell and written by Harper Steele, who we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, actually. Okay, now to serious things. Good to see everybody showing up. What is first? Hold on, wait a second. Let me make sure. Let me just double check this. I'm just gonna reload some stuff. Make sure I haven't left myself in some sort of a situation. Pause. Pause, please. That's not what pausing looks like. There we go. Okay. Are you having trouble seeing? Is that real? I thought Soul Life was joking. Okay. First one. We're going to start here in America. NBC News from a day ago. 2 aviation mishaps under federal investigation. And it's muted. That's not helpful.
Involves an American flight. We want to turn now to 2 aviation mishaps under federal investigation. One involves an American flight that landed in Dallas with no brakes. The other involves another problem with the Boeing MAX 8. Tom Costello joins us. Let's start with what happened in Dallas, Tom.
Yeah, this happened back in February as the American Airlines 737 landed on the DFW runway. The pilots found they had no brakes. They set their thrust reversers to maximum as the control tower started fire rescue just in case. The plane rolled off the end of the runway into an overrun area. Nobody injured. The NTSB found a maintenance team had improperly reconnected and swapped 2 hydraulic brake lines and electrical lines. American Airlines tells us the safety of our customers and team members is our top priority, and we are fully cooperating with the NTSB. Lester?
And Tom, the second investigation could suggest another issue with the Boeing 737 MAX and quality control.
Another one.
Right. The FAA wants hundreds of MAX planes inspected over 3 years for chafing wires.
It's like everybody the news media is basically like DJ Khaled over this Boeing thing. And another one. Another one.
That could cause the pilots to lose control. NBCNews.com was the first to report this problem. It dates back to 2021 when pilots momentarily lost control of a MAX that suddenly rolled to the right. The FAA warns wiring damage could lead to loss of control of the airplane. Boeing tells NBC News this is not an immediate safety of flight issue. It's already being addressed, but it does come as the FAA focuses on quality control breakdowns at Boeing. Lester?
All right, Tom Costello.
Okay. Well, Boeing's got to do something over there. Seriously, it's out of control. Like, I've heard people in chat at different times saying that they're never gonna fly again, and I don't know if any of that's true, but I'm personally a little concerned about getting on a plane at this point. You have sarcoidosis, and your immune system started with your eyes. That is unfortunate. I am sorry to hear that, Styx Dragon. Okay. Okay, this came out literally like 45 minutes ago. This is from Detroit, Channel 4. 60-year-old man shot and killed in Inkster. Inkster, that's an interesting name for a place.
Well, we're following breaking news right now out of Inkster. That's where investigators are piecing together what led to a 60-year-old man being shot and killed.
Happened on the 25,000 block of Stanford Street. Let's get to Mara McDonald. She's live at the Inkster Police Department. Mara, what do we know so far?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Kimberly. Neighbors tell me when they saw the woman that lives at that house walking up with her hands up like this, they were shocked. Inkster police and MSP blanketing the street. At first, neighbors didn't think this was anything violent.
Automatically, I just thought it was maybe electrical because we did have a power outage not too long ago and snow has been here. So I didn't think nothing of it.
But it became abundantly clear something had gone terribly wrong in the house when they saw the young woman who lives there walk out towards police.
But then when I saw her exactly come out with her hands up like this, and then I saw the police cross, do not cross, I just knew. I smelled death.
Neighbors say the people living in that home hadn't been there very long, maybe a year. A man in his 60s and a younger woman and a younger man. Fights could be heard, yelling and cars peeling off from the driveway. Late today, nobody heard any shots, but they did last night, which makes them wonder whether the man shot and killed inside this home has been dead for more than 24 hours.
Well, just another example of American gun violence that seemingly legislators are unwilling to do anything about. It's great. It's a great plan.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Okay, we're not going to watch this whole thing. And frankly, it's quite disturbing. So I don't even know how far I'm going to be able to make through this. But we talked a bit about this yesterday. However, Democracy Now! Has released a report on this situation 12 hours ago. It's entitled 6 White Mississippi Goon Squad Cops Get Lengthy Prison Sentences for Torturing Black Men.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We end today's show in Mississippi, where 6 former law enforcement officers have been sentenced to between 10 and 40 years in prison each for raiding a home and torturing 2 black men. The officers, all of whom are white, belong to a group that described itself as the Goon Squad. In January of 2023, the 6 officers burst into a home, then beat, handcuffed, waterboarded, and tasered Michael Corey, Jenkins, and Eddie Terrell Parker. The officers also sexually abused them with an object while shouting racial slurs. One of the officers put a gun in Jenkins' mouth for a mock execution and pulled the trigger. The bullet lacerated his tongue, broke his jaw, exited through his neck. The officers then planted drugs at the scene in an attempt to cover up their act.
Okay. This thing's like 16 minutes long, and it starts getting incredibly graphic really quickly. But it just seemed necessary that we take a look at this. The rest of this is littered with actual descriptions of what happened to them, which is just... it's too much for me. If you do want to hear the entirety of that, it is on Democracy Now! And it's genuinely important. I tried to watch the whole thing. I think I got like, I don't know, 13 minutes through. But it's rough. And the descriptions are absolutely atrocious. Oh, God. Okay, moving forward. America, when will we be better? When? Oh, it's a very rough story, and it gets much worse. That's my point. It just imagine the worst possible things, and then assume that it's correct, because it's probably pretty close. But thankfully, they are at least getting put in prison for this. I would say 10 years is not enough, even just for being there. So that's my one real comment on the situation beyond, you know, the obvious. Anyway. This next one. Sorry, it's taking me to get over the initial description of all that. This is from the AP from a day ago. New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez says he won't run in the Democratic primary.
Unfortunately, the present accusations I am facing, of which I am innocent and will prove so, will not allow me to have that type of dialogue and debate with political opponents that have already made it the cornerstone of their campaign. New Jerseyans deserve better than that. You deserve to hear from those who wish to represent you about what they would do for you and your families in the future. Therefore, I will not file for the Democratic primary this June. I am hopeful that my exoneration will take place this summer and allow me to pursue my candidacy as an independent Democrat in the general election. This would allow me the time to not only remind New Jersey...
Wait, he's going to run for president? Is that... I didn't even watch this. I assumed this was going to be a normal resignation. Oh my God.
...of how I've succeeded in being your champion, but how we will secure our financial futures, meet the challenges of raising a family, owning a home, provide for a college education, and secure a more peaceful world for all of us to live in.
Meanwhile, Bob Menendez has taken, I think, about $2 million, or maybe more, from pro-Israel lobbies. So, peace might be a stretch. Okay, what is next here? Oh, okay. We're going to quickly watch part of this. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene outside of Congress being questioned by the press after she filed a surprise motion to oust Speaker Mike Johnson. This is from CNN.
For Marjorie Taylor Greene, but she's speaking now. Let's listen in.
Started out as with rules and promises to the American people that we would bring regular order back to Congress. Speaker Johnson has betrayed that by passing 3 CRs and then forcing us to pass or to vote on a 2-part omnibus, the second one being today. He also only gave us, I mean, I don't even know how, we had 1 day basically to read 1,012 pages, breaking the 72-hour rule. This is a betrayal of the American people. This is a betrayal of Republican voters. And the bill that we were forced to vote on forced Republicans to choose between funding to pay our soldiers and in doing so, funding late-term abortion. This bill was basically a dream and a wish list for Democrats and for the White House. It was completely led by Chuck Schumer, not our Republican Speaker of the House, not our conference, and we weren't even allowed to put amendments to the floor to have a chance to make changes to the bill. I filed the motion to vacate today, but it's more of a warning and a pink slip. I respect our conference. I paid all my dues to my conference. I'm a member in good standing, and I do not wish to inflict pain on our conference and to throw the House in chaos. But this
You ever notice that Marjorie sometimes like smiles only with her bottom teeth? It's very off-putting. She does it a lot too. I find it very strange. Let's listen to a little bit more of this, but on 1.25, just because it's kind of funny. She's out of control over here. Or don't do it. Fine.
is basically a warning, and it's time for us to go through the process, take our time, and find a new Speaker of the House that will stand with Republicans and our Republican majority instead of standing with the Democrats.
That is a warning. If it's a warning, if it's a warning, does that mean that you're not going to go through and force this vote?
No, I will. I'm just
There's nothing that can convince you to back off.
There's not a time limit on this. It doesn't have to be forced and throw the House into chaos. I don't want to put any of our members in a difficult place like we were for 3.5 weeks. We're going to continue our committee work. We're going.
I'm sure that getting a new speaker is going to be much easier than last time.
Continue our investigations. There's a lot of good investigations going that have to be able to proceed, and the American people deserve that. But I'm not saying that it won't happen in 2 weeks or it won't happen in a month or who knows when. But I am saying the clock has started. It's time for our conference to choose a new speaker.
Do you believe?
Okay, that's enough of those shenanigans. But yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene here has decided that her best strategy for re-election, I think she's up for re-election here soon. Is she up for re-election in 2024? I gotta look this up. Yeah, her best strategy is to cause more chaos in the House of Representatives, so that should be fun for everybody.
There's no point in you betraying your future self to gratify your present self. It's a stupid game.
Wait, what's your boss saying? People getting abortions? Oh, fun. Oh, fun. You know, everything I hear about your boss makes him sound like a real idiot. It's your turn for attention? Okay. Alright, if you say so. What is next? Oh, we're gonna quickly watch part of this, but then we're gonna move on to some more stuff. This is all sort of tech-related news. I'll be honest. Today, I'm not sure how well I've done in terms of organizing everything. I tried, and it might be good. We'll see how it turns out. But I'm dubious about the whole thing. Anyways, moving on to tech and AI-related things. This is from a day ago at the UN, where it approved its first resolution on AI technology.
Research and benefit from it. To
Hold on.
conclude, this resolution
Hold on.
is a stepping stone.
Slow down, pal.
Today cements
Okay, hold on. I'm actually going to make this 1.25. Because these UN people just talk so slow. It's like they got nothing else to do. Okay, there we go. It's on 1.25.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here.
Are we at 20 likes yet, by the way? Anybody keeping track of that for me?
Was quoted as saying, "This is a big bleeping deal." Today, all 193 members of the United Nations General Assembly have spoken in one voice, and together chosen to govern artificial intelligence rather than let it govern us. The groundbreaking resolution adopted today cements global consensus for safe, secure,
Why is it so fucking
trustworthy
quiet?
AI systems that both advance sustainable development and respect fundamental freedoms. And while I can talk ad nauseam of this text, I want to start by acknowledging the who and the how of it, because this inclusive, comprehensive resolution is inextricably linked with an inclusive, comprehensive approach to adopting it. Over the last...
I gotta say, the UN really concerns me when they can't manage to master sound for these press conferences. Pretty frustrating. The people are supposed to be figuring out all the important problems. I get concerned when I can't even hear them talking in the video.
Months, we have worked with over 120 countries representing every part of the world and every level of development. We've brought on board 123 co-sponsors, including the Bahamas, the Netherlands, Morocco, Singapore, the UK, Japan, who are standing up here with me today. They are a few of the earliest co-sponsors of this resolution who've worked hand in hand with us since the very beginning. We've also engaged with stakeholders from the private sector, the technical communities, and academia. And we've built on a diverse group of international initiatives on existing UN entities around AI and on efforts in our own individual countries. And I'd be remiss not to mention President Biden and Vice President Harris's real leadership on this issue brought us here and abroad. All of this work culminated in what we just saw today. First of its kind resolution adopted not only by majority, but by consensus. Because ultimately, the risk and benefits of AI have the potential to impact all.
Bella has gone off the rails. You have proof of Jewish space lasers? My god. We got actual Marjorie Taylor Greene in chat. And you smoked pot in the UN General Assembly? Did you do it with, I'm trying to think of the quote. With Johnny Hopkins and Sloan Kettering?
And so approaching it requires all of us. The resolution we just adopted reflected our shared responsibility and collective fate. It leaves no one behind. It lays the groundwork for AI systems that leave no one behind either. Among other things, this resolution reaffirms that we must focus on capacity building and close the digital divides within and between countries so that everyone can benefit from AI. It emphasizes use AI to undermine peace or repress human rights. It calls on those creating this technology to be responsible when it comes to developing and launching new capabilities and to root out bias.
So I haven't yet looked over the contents of this resolution yet. I'm planning on doing that at some point. but I just figured we would start off this discussion with that resolution. We are now going to move on to a BBC article discussing Google, which was just fined 250 million euros for using news articles to train its chatbot.
You're watching The Context. It's time for our new weekly segment, AI Decoded. Welcome to AI Decoded, that time of the week when we look in depth at some of the most eye-catching stories in the world of artificial intelligence. And we begin. New York Times, who report Google has been fined $271 million by France's competition watchdog for failing to broker agreements with media outlets for using their content to train its AI tech. Which leads us to a possible solution after leading AI developer OpenAI told the UK Parliament it's impossible to train leading AI models without using copyrighted materials. A group of researchers says there is an alternative after releasing what's thought to be the largest AI training dataset composed entirely of text that's in the public domain, not under copyright. AP News looks at the UN General Assembly vote on what would be the first United Nations resolution on artificial intelligence. And the Verge tech website has a video of one of their journalists having a real-time conversation with an AI avatar who responds to human speech. Currently, it's an experimental program developed by video game developer Ubisoft, and we'll show you a clip of that a little later, actually. In the FT, an Uber Eats delivery worker who, after becoming fed up with the company's app consistently making errors, decided to rewrite the code to fix the issues. We have the author of that article with us, and she'll tell us a bit more. And AFP News features novelist Salman Rushdie, who says artificial intelligence tools may pose a threat to writers of thrillers and science fiction, but they lack the originality and humour to challenge serious novelists. And another artist, musician James Blunt, says he felt humiliated at how bad the results were when he experimented with AI to see if it could create lyrics accurately in his style. Well, with me here is Madhumita Murgia, the Financial Times' artificial intelligence editor. Thanks very much for coming on the programme.
Thanks for having me.
Right, lots to get through. Quite a busy week. I think we can probably almost say that every week now. Let's start with the New York Times. France fines Google amid AI dispute with news media. So this is a kind of broad issue that we're going to come up against quite a lot and already have, but a seemingly significant moment. What's happened here?
Yeah, so this is, there's been, as you say, a long-running dispute between Google and news organizations about how Google has been using links, news media, newspaper articles, and so on.
I can't tell if you're being serious or not right now. Is this like some sort of long-winded joke, Bella? Or are you genuinely suggesting that that's the case?
Particular fine, they've said that they've failed to negotiate fair deals and have used data from newspapers to train their large language models, the chatbots that many of us have been using. So this is part of a wider ruling that they've made and said Google hasn't negotiated in good faith.
And saying it's failing to inform publishers of the use of their content for their software. Isn't that something that we're kind of all the big AI kind of companies all in the same boat here? Is everything kind of trained the same way?
Absolutely. It's not just Google. OpenAI too, they are funded by Microsoft primarily. They have one of the most powerful models, which powers ChatGPT, which people might have played around with. That too is a large language model trained on a huge corpus of data found online. New York Times itself actually has sued OpenAI and is currently in this court case with them, saying that they've illegally used their copyrighted material, and that's kind of another ongoing battle on another front.
Interesting. So we're going to stick with exactly this theme, because there are now claims, this is Wired, here's proof you can train an AI model without slurping copyrighted content. Not often you get slurping in a headline, but I like it. So what's this story about?
So this is kind of this is the other side of the coin, right? Because the leaders of these companies, you know, OpenAI in particular, has said there's no other way to build these models. If we want really powerful language models, if we want chatbots, we need to use the words on the internet. We need this data. But the research that's come out of here, it's a group of researchers backed by the French government. They've shown that actually there are other ways, there are alternatives. You can make data sets that power maybe smaller models, but for specific use cases. An example they give here is for a law firm, for example. So if you're trying to build a language model specifically to help with lawyers and the work that they do, and this could be true in scientific research or any sort of vertical that we want to apply it to, you can use, you know, less data and it can be paid for.
Interesting. So that's one potential solution, but again, on those narrow use cases or narrower use cases, because it says in here that, yeah, the data set is tiny compared to what lots of the other language models were kind of based on. So surely there must be some kind of difference in quality of outcome, or maybe not. Maybe you don't need that.
You know, obviously the internet has the entire swell of information that we all put out there, from Reddit posts to, you know, Amazon comments and reviews. But there's also a lot of noise in that data, right? There's a lot of rubbish on the internet, as everyone can attest to. So it's not necessarily clean, good quality data. So there is still it's an open question of whether it's quantity or quality. And I think that there is an argument to be made for good quality.
You don't trust Congress to make laws about AI? I mean, I have genuine concerns because it doesn't seem like most of Congress knows how to use a computer.
Data.
Interesting. Right, let's move on to a bit of high-level regulation now, because it's hugely important. There are, as we've been witnessing over the last kind of 6 months especially, these big attempts.
Okay. That's really all I wanted to watch of that. I got a little distracted trying to read all of your chats. I'm pretty sure Bella's got to be joking, because that's just a ridiculous suggestion. I really hope you don't send me evidence in the Discord. Okay. This next one is entitled "The Rise of AI in Video Games as Industry Layoffs Rise." This is from the Associated Press. The latest in video game technology is always on display at the annual Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. This year, the spotlight shone brightly on one emerging advancement in the industry: artificial intelligence.
A fellow fan of the dark side are we.
NPCs have undergone a revolutionary transformation.
You've seen characters in virtual worlds and games. What we do is enable a mind for them, a very human-like, such that now they can understand what you're saying, understand what's happening in the environment, and respond very intelligent and carry out different actions in the environment.
I think I broke my pinky toe. Can you help me?
I can certainly assist with that. I'll need to examine your toe to assess the injury. Shall we head over to the medical station?
AI has been really interesting. It's still finding its place within the industry. I've heard a lot of companies are saying it's really fantastic that they can have AI, for example, help them draft storylines, or they can help them draft visuals, and so it takes away a lot of the time that their team would spend on those tasks, so it makes them more efficient.
Many in the industry, though, are concerned that AI could result in further job loss after more than 20,000 layoffs in the video game industry since 2022.
Studios told us that the AI wasn't going to replace anyone or anything like that, but immediately afterwards, there's been mass layoffs all across the game industry.
It is really rough seeing all of the layoffs. It's heartbreaking. You know, we've all had friends lose their jobs, and it's very disheartening to see. Something that you can do with a union, though, is you can bargain over the terms the company has to take
before a layoff happens.
We have a strike authorization out. It was approved at 98.32%, I want to say, 98%, which I think is a pretty resonating call for action and for a need for this protection. It's, AI protections is a very central part of our bargaining focus.
We are not substituting something that was already done. We are opening up an entirely new thing. Like talking with characters was not a thing before during game. So we are opening up a whole new market that was just not there before.
Can I have a hug before we go?
Of course, a quick hug before we go. We're in this together.
This is weird. Super weird.
Yeah, I mean...
Okay. I'm really confused. Is this some sort of elaborate joke, or do you genuinely believe there's some sort of Jewish cabal with control of space lasers that are starting forest fires? Because that's fucking nonsense, all right? And I need you to stop suggesting it in chat, okay?
Hundreds of thousands of people had turned out to protest in solidarity with
This is throwing me off. I'm very confused by the situation. What am I doing? Yeah, okay. Staying with video game related stuff. This is from Al Jazeera. It is entitled, "Why Have People Taken to Video Games to Express Solidarity with Palestine?"
Hundreds of thousands of people had turned out to protest in solidarity with Palestine in London, DC, Paris, and Roblox. Video games are becoming a platform for activism, and people are showing up online calling for change. I'm Annalise Borges, and this is The Stream.
There's a Palestine protest on Roblox, look! No way, this is insane! Some kids wanted to help Palestine, so they opened a server to protest for Palestine. Subhanallah.
This is America. Don't got you slipping now. Look how I'm living now.
You know things are changing when kids are protesting on Roblox.
3.2 billion people, nearly half of the world's population, play video games on a regular basis. Online multiplayer games are particularly popular, allowing users to interact virtually. And one of the ways they've been interacting is through protests, from Black Lives Matter to Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement and now Palestine. Online protests are an important outlet for those who are unable to join them in the real world. Chiggu Zaid helped organize the protest in solidarity with Palestine online, and our producer, Jassim Matter, joined him in Roblox to understand how it all played out.
I'm here in the world of Roblox in the Malaysia-Palestine Square to meet Chiggu Zaid, the man responsible for organizing the march in support of Palestine that went viral. Hello there, Zaid. Could you tell me how this protest came to be?
I already played the Roblox since 2021. And then we are doing many events before, like Maulid Rasul, okay, like the Ramadan, Ramadan month. And then we try to do this event, the Palestine March or Rally event on the Roblox. We are actually more focusing on our country, our children in our country. But I don't know. It went very viral across all over the world, and then it happened. That's.
Anyway, hold on. I'm gonna move a little bit forward here.
Impact of video game activism. I'm joined today by Adele Lin, a designer and engineer who organized a Black Lives Matter protest on Animal Crossing. Danielle Fernandez-Galeote, an award-winning game designer and gamification researcher, and Jennifer Stravos, a culture journalist who also has written about both protesting but also grieving in virtual spaces. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Adele, I'd like to start with you. Can you help us understand how video games went from this fun way of entertainment to a tool for expressing dissent?
Yeah, it was 2020, and it was a very interesting circumstance. The game Animal Crossing came out, and we were all, at home playing a lot of Animal Crossing, and then the pandemic hit, and then also, the death of George Floyd really created this outrage across the country. But most of us were sitting at home and unable to be out in community with each other. And so a lot of us turned to, social media. And for me, I was on Animal Crossing a lot. And so, I wanted to figure out a way for people to visit my island, but then also understand what was going on in the world, or at least, in America at the time. And kind of created this space for people to grieve over Black folks who had died and unjustly persecuted, and it created this sort of like memorial space. And then with a couple of friends, we kind of decided to hold an event, and it kind of turned into a protest and a march, and kind of things went from there.
And Jennifer, I believe you attended that protest organized by Adele. Why? Why did you decide to join a protest online?
So when I was in 2020, I was living with an immunocompromised adult, and I could not attend the physical protests. I also am a weirdo in the fact that I live in Los Angeles and I don't own a car. So it makes getting to protests a bit difficult. In a very interesting twist, I was actually pitching to write about my own protest, and then Adele and I have a mutual friend who attended my protest that ended up being the reason why I ended up attending Adele's. So I actually wrote a reported piece about Adele's protest, and then had originally had an essay that was supposed to go live about my own, which ended up not going live, and then Nat Geo ended up writing about it. So it was a really kind of a weird, wonderful kind of community experience that was being brought forth from people around the world that were trying to figure out like how we could participate.
Yeah, I just think that's the reason why I wanted to watch this video, because as many people who watch this stream live very online lives, I think that it's important to discuss alternative ways of protest and community-driven organizing and things like that, even if it's through the internet. Okay. Did I block you from Discord? No? Did you accept the rules? Okay. We're kind of going to be moving quickly into some climate-related stuff. First, though, this one is going to help us segue. This is from Global News. Poilevre motion of non-confidence in Trudeau over carbon price hike fails.
Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre ramped up his campaign to try and pause a scheduled hike of the federal carbon tax on April 1st. After running petitions and attempting to force an emergency debate in the House of Commons, today he urged MPs to back his motion to topple the Liberal government over the planned increase. Our chief political correspondent, David Aiken, watched the debate play out. David?
Well, Jackson, the Conservatives simply did not have the numbers to bring down the government.
I declare the motion defeated.
The minority Trudeau government won the day with the support of Bloc Québécois and NDP MPs. The Tories would surely have known they would lose, but for them, the point of the exercise was to force the debate.
We, as common sense conservatives, are ready to restore hope in this country, but it starts with change. We rise today to vote non-confidence in this NDP Liberal government.
And while the House of Commons spent the day debating that confidence motion, Conservatives on the House's Transport Committee were trying to make more political hay at the expense of Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault. Guilbeault had been quoted in February saying the federal government would no longer invest in new roads. He subsequently corrected himself to say he meant there would be no federal money for a car tunnel in Quebec. But his political opponents were not going to let him off that easy.
So this seems to be a war on cars. This has been the plan all along. And so what Minister Guilbeault did was just say the quiet part out loud.
My comments were specifically related to the project in Quebec.
Guilbeault is a favorite target of Conservatives because he is the chief evangelist for the carbon tax.
So if you don't understand how the carbon tax affects road infrastructure, I can't help you. But I have a question for you. Is there anything that you would do to walk back, you personally, would you walk back in any case the 23% carbon tax?
If I'm not mistaken, the carbon tax would actually increase the amount of funds available to help keep infrastructure good.
Increase in April.
Guilbeault would only defend the carbon tax in French, noting that, yes, while the carbon tax does go up April 1st, so does the rebate paid to most Canadians in getting Canada to net zero emissions. But the Institute said industrial carbon pricing systems on large emitters, that's what's in place in Alberta, will make the single biggest contribution to cutting emissions. Jack?
Okay. Yep, I think we already all knew that taxing the biggest corporations and basically every country for their carbon use is going to be the most effective strategy, as they definitely use the most. Okay, what is next? Oh, okay, quickly, we're going to take a look at this video. This is from Al Jazeera English from 20 hours ago. The UN World Water Development Report assesses global freshwater resources.
This is the UN's flagship report on the state of the world's freshwater.
Fuck, this one is loud.
Resources, and it doesn't paint a pretty picture. Today, 2.2 billion people live without access to safely managed drinking water, and approaching half of the world's population do not have adequate or safe sanitation. Indeed, in poorer countries, up to 90% of wastewater is discharged directly into the environment without treatment. Every single day around the world, 1,000 children die from illnesses caused by contaminated drinking water. All this drives migration as millions move in search of fresh and safe supplies, adding further strain on resources where the migrants settle, fueling social tensions. An armed conflict can have near catastrophic impacts on civilian water infrastructure. Think of the targeted attacks on storage and treatment plants in Ukraine, in Gaza, and in Sudan. As climate change adds to the strain on water supply, the UN report calls for a global effort to provide water equally for everyone. It is, after all, a human right.
Okay, well, that's a pretty dire sort of assessment, if you ask me. 2.2 billion people without access to clean drinking water. It's probably not good. It's probably not good. I think a lot could probably be done to improve that. Okay, this is from a day ago. Activists protest Brussels nuclear energy summit. Environmental activists block the road to a nuclear energy summit in Brussels.
are here to denounce that this summit is a sabotage of the energy transition. Nuclear energy is a fairy tale. It's not going to save the climate. What is going on here is the relaunch of the nuclear industry, and it's not about saving the climate. So we demand a safe and secure energy for all people with 100% renewables.
Okay. I looked into it a little bit further. Apparently, there is a plan to make 12 nuclear facilities in France by 2050, I think it was. And they don't believe they're going to be able to create as many as they've proposed, essentially leaving a massive hole in their plan to get to zero emissions. This next one actually gives us a little bit more context into the situation. This is from CNA, which I don't actually know where this one's from. Where is CNA? I think it might be a French publication. This is France seeks nuclear energy revival in confronting climate crisis, from a day ago.
Nuclear power is a non-negotiable point of national pride for France. The country derives about 70% of its electricity from nuclear energy and now wants to boost its capacity with up to 14 new reactors. That ambition is part of proposed legislation reaffirming France's commitment to nuclear power to ensure energy sovereignty. Nuclear power stations have a minimal carbon footprint, helping the government to meet its green goals. But some analysts question whether it is realistic to think 14 new nuclear plants can be built by 2050, the year France aims to reach carbon neutrality.
I would say we could consider maybe 5-6 new nuclear units in France by 2050. But obviously that will not be enough to fill the void left by all decommissioned nuclear plants, and therefore we will need still our solid hydro base and a much increased renewable capacity.
That renewable capacity is part of the French government's plans, especially new ambitions in onshore and offshore wind output.
The output from France's power stations is not just for domestic consumption. In 2023, the country regained its place as Europe's leading exporter of electricity.
In 2022, for the first time in more than 40 years, France imported electricity. That was due to an unprecedented number of outages in its nuclear reactors. In that same year, Sweden and Norway exported more electricity than France. In December last year, France signed a nuclear cooperation memorandum with Sweden. The French...
Okay. I think we get the point. And I think it seems like it's pretty mixed in chat. Me personally, I think that we do have to embrace nuclear energy to some degree, as it is, from my understanding, the lowest carbon emitting energy resource available that is easily scalable. Might be the wrong terminology, but in terms of its kilowatts to dollars invested or whatever else, that's just my understanding of it. Not that we shouldn't be filling as many gaps and as we possibly can with things like solar, wind, you know, electric cars. Even though I have railed against having electric cars be the beacon of our future, as it is not a real solution. Many gallons of oil go into the creation of even electric cars. If you count the tires, you count the paint, you count everything else that goes into that thing, there is plenty of that going on. But yeah, you know, it should be a part of the solution, in my opinion. But we do have to be realistic with ourselves and stop lying about what like what it is we're going to do. And by we, I mean governments who really have the torch, if you will, like leading us into the energy future. And so, you know, they have to wake up and start being realistic with everybody about what things can do and what needs to be done, and stop pretending like we should be leaving this kinds of stuff up to corporations, because all they're going to do is continue to buy back stocks and ruin the environment as best as they can. Okay, this is on Al Jazeera English from a day ago. Philippines drought. Government warns El Nino will affect most parts by April.
In the decades they've been growing rice, these farmers say they've never seen the soil crack in their rice fields until this season. It hasn't rained for months due to the climate pattern known as El Nino.
When the government provided water for irrigation, it was too late because they prioritized other areas. Our crops were dead before they received water.
The deep wells that they use as an alternative have not been of help either.
Groundwater supply has also dwindled. It must also be because of El Nino.
In this town alone, some 1,500 hectares of farmland are parched, and farmers say they're now deeper in debt. Government weather forecasters say virtually the entire country will be affected by El Nino by April, which is also the hottest month of the year in the Philippines. Farmers have suffered the most, with crop damage amounting to more than $30 million and counting. A government special task force on El Nino says the dry spell has peaked, but it's going to get worse before it gets better.
El Nino is actually weakening, but the Weather Bureau compared the situation to a flat iron. So once it's plugged, you can feel the constant heat, but once you unplug it, the effects of the heat still remain.
People living in the capital, Manila, have been warned their water service may be disrupted as water level in dams across the country are declining. And that means water for irrigation is likely to get even scarcer. Barnabelow, Al Jazeera, San Miguel, Bulacan.
So yeah, situation's a little dire in Philippines. Kind of sticking with this trend started by the, or sticking with the trend of talking about people running out of water. It seems like every day we're talking about a different country that's having some kind of water crisis. What's next? Oh, this is a tiny bit of nearly optimistic sounding news from Reuters. Scientists rush to regrow Thailand's dying coastal coral. This is from 20 hours ago.
"10 feet under the waves off of coastal Thailand, billions of pink specks rise from the ocean floor. These are actually the beginnings of new coral. The cycle of coral spawning happens once a year. The warmth of the water, the tide, the current, even the cycle of the moon are all cues that could trigger this event. Scientists are rushing to get as much as they can to help save these reefs, which are struggling under warmer waters brought on by climate change." This is Thiripon Kanorox, a 28-year-old marine biologist from Thailand's Department of Marine and Coastal Resources.
So earlier, while we were waiting, we saw the coral releasing the eggs. We waited for a while for them to keep spawning before we started collecting the eggs in a plastic box. So now we have to urgently head to the facility to mix the eggs and sperm. Well, I'm very excited. I was quite out of breath as I used a lot in the process.
Bring thousands of precious coral eggs and sperm back to their lab. The goal is to nurture the young coral and then return it to the site, hoping to repopulate.
Yes, it's coral splooge, okay? It's precious and important. And, yeah, I don't think it's debasing it by calling it splooge. It's just vital splooge.
The reef. It's exposed to red light, simulating moonlight. That will trigger fertilization. She says this has to be done fast or risk inbreeding and fewer successful eggs. After 72 hours, the fertilized egg will be transferred to earthenware tiles where they begin to mature. That could take 3 to 5 years. Even after they go back, growth is slow. And Thailand's Department of Marine and Coastal Resources estimates as much as 90% of Thailand's coral reefs have been affected by a mass bleaching event that started in 2010. The scientists are part of a government project that began in 2016 to regenerate the coral. The project chose a primary site near Mannain Island in Thailand's south, which hosts more than 98 coral species.
And in case you didn't quite hear what he said, bleaching had started in Thailand's coral reefs. We've talked about so many different coral reefs, but somehow we haven't talked about Thailand's. Over the last 15 years, they've been bleaching, and for 8 years, they've been trying to regrow the coral artificially.
So far, over 4,000 coral colonies around the island have been restored, but after nearly 8 years, it's still
if they didn't put on some Luther Vandross in the background, Latino, it was a missed opportunity, undoubtedly.
Mental. The scientists are trying to measure its success based on similar experiments in places like Australia and the Caribbean. Maitini Ugelan, an expert with coastal oceanography and climate change, agrees the project has seen short-term results. However, she says the solution is not enough.
Oh shoot, I am not paying attention to my job. Chat has earned second emotional support character. So we got Captain Benjamin Sisko from Deep Space Nine. Okay. Thank you for reminding me, Soleil.
เราเลยจุดของการป้องกันมาแล้วทีนี้ในเรื่องของระดับนโยบายเนี่ยต้องแอคชั่นลงมาพอสมควร
I did not notice she was speaking in Thailand. Thai. I didn't realize she was speaking in Thai because I was reading chat. Okay, here we go.
Solution is not enough.
เรียกได้ว่าบรรเทา
You could say that we can only try to alleviate the
เราเลยจุด
problem
ของการป้องกันมาแล้วทีนี้
because we have
ในเรื่อง
passed the point of
ใน
prevention.
เรื่องของระดับนโยบายเนี่ยต้องแอค
In
ชั่น
terms
ล
of
งมาพอสม
policy,
ควร
we need to
จน
take
ถึงระดั
action
บ
all
ข
the
อง
way
กฎ
to
ห
the
มาย
legal
ที่จะ
level.
แก้ปัญหาในเรื่อง climate change แต่ว่า
But in
ในระดับ
terms of
ท้องถิ่นเนี่ย
local
ทำอย่าง
scale,
ไร
we
ก็
must
ได้
minimize
ให้
its
มัน
distribution
ถูกรบกวนน้อย
as
ที่
much
สุ
as
ด
possible.
According to the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the world is on the brink of a fourth mass coral bleaching event. It threatens the survival of tropical
Not that, Cisco. Bad lefty. That is... Yeah, exactly. It's the wrong Cisco. Can the third be... No, we have other... I mean... I feel like he could be a serious departure from the theme that we have been creating here. I have already created 3 other ones, and since we're just standing here talking about it, and I'm about to switch to the next video, I'll show you what I've created up to this point. Now, if you people have problems with these options, that's fine. You let me know. But this is where I'm at right now. So I've created Doc Brown from Back to the Future, of course. We got Morty from Rick and Morty. And we got Neo from The Matrix. You're asking for Cisco? Well, I feel like, he's just not thematic to this situation. Everybody here either does space or time travel. That was, I felt like, the bare minimum of getting into this sort of situation. What's with all the red faces coming at me? I don't appreciate that at all. Well, if you have... Cisco could be an Easter egg. That's true. Or somebody could use their unused Patreon benefits as Galactic patrons, since nobody has yet used this portion of it, and they could request Cisco on one of these other places, like the pool, or, in fact, I would say Cisco, he would fit right in here, okay? Cisco at the beach? Thong Song? Come on. Come on, chat. It only makes sense. Maybe it's me. I like things to be organized and to have some sort of a thematic thing going on, but it just makes sense to my brain. Cisco is the DS9 character. Cisco is the R&B legend. Yes, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Everybody get that? Okay, what's next? Oh, okay. Some people don't have enough water, and others have too much. This is from 8 hours ago. Reuters report entitled Burundi, Floods Submerge Homes and Farms. And if you're not aware, Burundi is on the east coast of Africa between... Oh no. I know it's Kenya. What's the one in the south? Tanzania? No, that's not right. That's not right. Mozambique? No, fuck. It's on the east coast, south of Kenya. Just know that.
Neither homes nor farmland have been spared by the relentless rise of Burundi's Lake Tanganyika. Increased rains linked to climate change have upped the water level by 27 centimeters in recent months. In the community of Kibenga, residents have erected sandbank defences as they attempt, often in vain, to hold back the tide of flood water. Apolline Kankindi says she used to grow crops such as cassava and beans. Now, she says, the lake has destroyed it all. Many here are living in dire situations, unable to cultivate food to feed their families.
Alright, this might be a little bit insensitive, but if we could just move the water in the places where people don't want it to the places where people do want it, I feel like that's a solution. I'm just not sure how to make it happen.
Kibenga District Chief Oscar Bizimana says his community desperately needs help.
Volume? Son of a bitch. Everybody systematize and get your volumes good. God damn it. Okay, let's try that again.
Life is hard in the community since they do not have fields for cultivation following this rise. And we do not have a way to completely prevent this rise in the waters of Lake Tanganyika.
The International Organization for Migration has said Burundi is one of the 20 countries worldwide most vulnerable to climate change. In addition, the World Bank says 98% of the population are socio-economically vulnerable to its impact.
Ah, for fuck's sake. Volume better. That's good. It was quiet for me, honestly, too. And when it's quiet for me, I know it's quiet for you. Okay, what's next? Climate-related news still. CBC News. Why Iceland's lava is so hard to stop. This is from 9 hours ago. Immediately a video that's much louder. Thank you. Thank you, YouTube. Really appreciate that.
This is Kapoho, Hawaii. Was Kapoho nearly 6 years ago. Nobody lives here anymore. Lava wiped out everything. Goma in Congo, a couple of years later. Hundreds of homes destroyed by molten rock. And this is the Canary Island of La Palma. Thousands fled as neighborhoods were engulfed. And now we have Iceland. Currently in a state of emergency, lava is flowing. Big swaths of the country considered at very high risk. The purple zone is where lava can burst out of the ground without warning. And zone 4 at the bottom in red, thousands of people live there. Grindavik is a fishing village, now evacuated, too dangerous to stay. And so they watch and defend against the country's 4th lava eruption in 3 months. I've heard lava described as liquid doom because it is both destructive and unstoppable. When it flows, it is unyielding. But why? Why can't we build walls like we do against water, or build trenches like we do against fire? And did we, at one point, really think bombing lava was going to work? Yes. Yes, we did.
Lava tends to follow the path of least resistance, which usually means the steepest path, because let gravity do the work, right? But anything that's in the way is either going to get knocked aside or surrounded or buried or lit on fire because, well, this is powerful stuff. The thing is, this is really just corn syrup, cornstarch, a little bit of red dye mixed in. You really have to imagine this hot and heavy.
The estimates I've seen are that lava in Iceland is among the hotter types of lava we see worldwide, and that we might be talking more than 1,000 degrees Celsius.
Boof is, I don't know, 10 times hotter than a normal oven. It's so hot that I have been walking next to lava flows at quite a distance, at about 100, 200 yards, just walking on the side, and the side of my face getting like sunburn from just the radiation at a big distance.
So basically, if you stick your hand in 1,000 degrees centigrade lava, your hand is going to be barbecued very, very rapidly, unfortunately.
So right away, there's a danger to any equipment and people you might think of using. But the way that heat dissipates can also make the flow more difficult to contain. You see how the lava itself is a fluid, but there's always that solid crust on the outside.
Oh!
Oh my gosh! Baby rock! Oh, cool!
That's the outermost lava cooling. Because remember, lava is just rock that's so hot it's been liquefied. When it cools, it becomes solid again.
Wow, Bella, you thought he made lava? Okay. Okay.
And those solid channels can create their own barriers that redirect flow. So why can't you just dig a big trench, redirect lava sideways?
Okay, you can dig a trench to take the lava into a given direction. But if you're dealing with a situation like we are dealing with, one eruption after another, after the first eruption, the channel or the trench is full. And then we would have to dig another trench and another trench.
And even the longest trench is going to have to compete with where the lava was previously trying to go. Remember, if the lava was flowing your way to begin with, it's probably because you're downhill. Now, digging a trench can work temporarily, right? You're digging a pocket of lower ground and you're trying to channel that lava this way, perpendicular to whatever direction it was going. But even if the lava doesn't eventually kind of fill that in by hardening into a bridge over that trench, we're talking about an incredibly difficult, incredibly expensive engineering challenge. And it's not a one and done, right? Given how the flow of lava is constant and you can have eruption after eruption. The other thing to realize about lava is that it's really dense. So this glass of water that I have is pretty manageable to lift, right? Water has a density of 1 gram per cubic centimeter. So your average glass doesn't even hold a pound of water. A bucket of water. So we have something that's really heavy. Like this is, I think, a 20-liter bucket, 3/4 full, maybe that's 30, 40 pounds of water. But lava, remember, this is liquefied rock. It can be up to 3 times denser, heavier than water, twice as dense as concrete. So if you imagine...
Okay, I think that was about where I wanted to stop it. I think it makes it pretty clear. The visualizations certainly help, but the diverting of lava and the stopping of lava is actually quite difficult. Okay. What's next? Okay. We are going to now move on to global geopolitics and such. Starting in Haiti, this is a report from Al Jazeera 12 hours ago entitled, "How Can Haiti Break Its Cycle of Violence and Instability?" Oh, right, I forgot. It's with Mark Lamont Hill. Play, please.
Armed gangs have effectively taken over the capital and locked the prime minister out of the country, triggering his resignation. So what will happen in Haiti? And is there a way forward to build lasting stability? We'll discuss this and more in an Upfront special. Haiti is in crisis. The Caribbean nation has been under a state of emergency after armed gangs launched coordinated attacks against government institutions, forcing sitting Prime Minister Ariel Henry to resign. Meanwhile, there's been talk about potential foreign intervention to quell the violence, a move many see would continue a long tradition of failed interference by outside powers. But what are the alternatives? And what is the road forward to stability in the country? Here to speak with us from Port-au-Prince is journalist Monique Kleska. From Vancouver, author and professor of global race at the University of British Columbia, Jemima Pierre. And here in the studio with me is Deputy Program Director for Latin.
She was on, I think Jemima was on the Democracy Now! Report we watched like last week.
America and the Caribbean with the International Crisis Group, Renata Segura.
Oh yeah, you think we can stop tornadoes with explosives? We're just going to nuke them? Is that the plan?
Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to start with you, Monique. You're on the ground. What are you seeing? What are conditions like right now?
Conditions are catastrophic. I went out yesterday, and when I went out yesterday, I saw a body on the ground. There, I passed a car that had several bodies in it because it had had an accident, because the gangs had been in my area, in my neighborhood 2 days ago. And it was, everybody's on edge, everybody's stressed, everybody is absolutely terrified they may come back. Yesterday, another gang, it appears, was also in another town, Pétionville, maybe about 20 minutes from where I am. And they terrorized the population in various neighborhoods in that area. So the situation is that the gangs control pretty much the whole. People said 80%, but I believe now it's up from the 80%. They control the capital city. Port-au-Prince is on edge, and it is suffering, and it is bursting. But I must add one thing, and it's important. There is resistance, because as I left my home, there were barricades, and every few meters, there were different barricades, meaning the population is organizing itself so that to either prevent the gangs from coming or to retard them coming.
Renata, I'm hearing Monique talk about the situation. She describes it as catastrophic. And a big issue here is the gangs, she says. 80% is what reports say. The gang control amount is in Port-au-Prince. I'm hearing Monique say it might even be higher on the ground. A lot of people use that as a reason for demanding foreign involvement. The problem is there's a long and tumultuous history of foreign involvement in Haiti, whether it's UN missions that have failed, whether it's the United States meddling at various times. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, ideally, this would have been addressed just by the...
Now, just for context, before you start listening to this woman speak, let's read about her real quick. Now, as you can see here on the screen, her name is Renata Segura. She is a deputy program director at the LATAM and Caribbean Crisis Group, which is a part of the International Crisis Group. The International Crisis Group is... Here, I'll show you. Put this up on the screen so people can kind of see what I'm reading from. Okay, this is the Wikipedia page for the International Crisis Group. It is an NGO, a global NGO, and it is a very interesting organization. The way that they present themselves, they are essentially, you know, a do-gooding, non-for-profit global organization However, the more you look into them, the more it becomes a little bit of a gray area as to who they are. First off, their seed funding came from billionaire George Soros. Not to start any sort of conspiracy theories or anything like that, but having funding from billionaires in general makes me wary of you, regardless of who they are. But if you read this down here, this little paragraph about critique about the organization, the Swedish ONG Transnational Foundation for Peace and Future Research alleged in 2005 that the ICG board of directors had close ties to Western governments, a lack of independent scholars, and an absence of an objective standard theoretical framework. What essentially they're saying there is that they're biased and they are in bed with the government. In 2010, Tom Hazeldine argued in an article published in the New Left Review that ICG styles itself as an independent and nonpartisan, but has consistently championed NATO's wars to fulsome transatlantic praise. A 2007 piece in Foreign Policy described ICJ as liberal and critical of Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez. So that's the sort of vibe, maybe, if you will, of this agency. Oh, I didn't even pull it up. I said I was going to pull it up, and then I switched screens and didn't switch back. My bad, chat. My bad.
National Police and the Haitian security forces. However, what we have seen is a deterioration of the security and political situation in the last 2 years and a half since the assassination of President Moïse that really at this point leaves no option but for the world to step in and help Haiti. I think there is a significant...
What does that mean? What does that mean, the world stepping in and helping Haiti? Tell me a little bit more about what you mean.
So, interim Prime Minister Henry has asked the United Nations for help, and the Security Council passed a resolution.
First off, he's an illegitimate prime minister. President? Is it president technically the title? But either way, he's not a real president. He wasn't elected. He was appointed by his previous, what do you call it? His predecessor. And that person, Jovenel Moïse, was appointed, not elected. And he also basically resigned, but not in 100%. He said he resigned ahead of time. He said he was resigning once, once a council to form the new government is created. Is a little bit vague, but he's basically not even the president anymore. He's as much as resigned. So the fact that he wants something right now is a little bit ridiculous.
To send a multinational support mission that will support the Haitian police in fighting the gangs. So that is not a UN peacekeeping mission. We're not talking about blue helmets. We're talking about a mission formed by multiple countries that would send police, not military, to support the Haitian National Police. That is what is sort of in preparations at this point. Obviously, the crisis of the last few weeks has made this difficult. However,
now we've heard directly from Haitians saying they want nothing to do with a multinational coalition coming in and trying to set up a government for them. So she's basically just parroting Western governmental talking points right now. She's doing a pretty good job of it, I'll give her that much.
I do think that there is a reason for hope at this point. As we all know, Prime Minister Henry said that he would resign once this transitional government that is being prepared is in place. And if he does, one of the main worries that we had was that a mission would come and prop up what was a very illegitimate leader. With him out of the picture and a new consensual government, I'm hoping, and I would like to hear what Monique and others have to say about this, the Haitians will be more welcoming of this force that would be seen as really trying to help Haitians get out of the control of the gangs.
So that brings me to Jemima. I'm curious to know what you would say about that idea of Haitians being more inclined to welcome these forces in. I know in the past you've said what intervention means for Haiti, what it has always meant is death and destruction. Would this situation make you change your thinking on that at all?
I actually think this situation is worse. Think about the way the UN so-called peacekeeping mission that was in Haiti that lasted 13 years from 2004 to 2017, the misery caused by the UN forces, the rapes, the murders, the cholera. This mission is explicitly a non-UN mission, which means that they're not even under the purview of the UN. The UN still owes Haiti reparations for the cholera. The UN helped destroy what was there. And so what people see are foreigners coming in once again with guns drawn on them. And to me, for the so-called international community, and here let's be specific about who we're talking about when we say the international community, it's the same international community that is behind, that is the cause of our problem, that had upheld an illegitimate government, appointed Ariel Henry, and this is US, France, Canada, and Brazil, the core group. And so for me to have these same people be part of the solution or to be deciding what happens to Haiti, to make a decision about what the solution is, to me is absolutely unacceptable. And for people to sit here and say, well, the international needs to come help Haiti when they're the ones that started the fire. It's like having an arsonist come in and asking the same arsonist to put out the fire. It's unacceptable.
Does it make a difference to you that, a couple of weeks ago, it was Prime Minister Henry himself, along with Kenyan President William Ruto, who signed an agreement to get Kenyan police officers there?
Prime Minister Henry has no legitimacy. He does, according to the Constitution, he's not even supposed to be signing any agreement. He was not supposed to ask for anything. He was imposed on us. There is no legitimate person to actually make these decisions to have foreign forces coming in. If you have a foreign force coming in that is a non-UN mission, you're basically asking for you're basically saying that you're sending foreign mercenaries into the country. There has to be something different than this. And the US, France, Canada cannot keep acting the way that they've been acting the past 20 years when it comes to dealing with Haitian people. It's unacceptable.
Renata, want to jump in?
It's understandable that what she's saying, that Haitians have this history of interventions that have been failed. And I think that is a very legitimate question. But I think it is also a little bit naive, given the situation being as dire as it is. At Crisis Group, we speak daily with hundreds of Haitians across Port-au-Prince and abroad. We visit the country multiple times. And without trying to be disrespectful, what we hear from the people in Cité du Soleil, in the areas that are, under daily harassment from the gangs, is like, it's easy for people who are not in here to say that they don't want an international help.
But Renata, as a foreigner to Haiti, let me just say, I have family that had to leave Croix-des-Bouquets and move to the countryside, okay? I know. I'm a Haitian person, and I get phone calls and I talk to people. So that's the first thing. The so-called international community has created a humanitarian crisis in Haiti. We need to first accept that. And so when we tell you that the last thing we want is to have guns from foreigners pointed at our people, you have to listen to that too. I do think those two things are not incompatible.
So let's think through this. And Monique,
yeah, there's definitely more to that. And if you're very interested in that subject, I genuinely think you should go watch that. It's on Al Jazeera, Up Front, hosted by Mark Lamont Hill. We just don't have enough time to watch the whole thing, but I think that Jemima was very, very clear and explicit, and I think she's probably the person, at least, actually both of those women are quite on the right point. They've both been on Democracy Now!, I think, to discuss this very issue. And they're very based. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Stephen. We talk about gun violence on this podcast every single day that it is on. I'm trying to think. I know I've seen you in some of these, but yeah, we discussed just that whole situation. We've discussed it many times. Okay, this is another. I stopped it because we actually have more breaking news from this situation from 4 hours ago. This is from Global News. Canadian military's elite counterterrorism unit deployed to Haiti. Whoopsies. What just happened?
Global News has learned that JTF-2, Canada's elite counter-terrorism and hostage rescue unit, has deployed a small number of troops to Haiti to help protect the Canadian embassy. Today, multiple sources told Global News that JTF-2 is on the ground at the Canadian embassy in Haiti. Yesterday, local Haitian media captured rare images of JTF-2 assaulters and published them online. JTF-2 has been deployed previously into similar situations, including Israel, Sudan, and Afghanistan, where they help to evacuate essential embassy staff and protect the embassy, as well as conduct what's known as a rip-out. That's when the special forces and embassy staff destroy computers and sensitive documents so they're not left behind before shutting down the embassy. Tonight, Global Affairs confirmed to Global News that there is a Canadian military presence in Haiti. They have not indicated what the future of the embassy might be just yet. Mercedes Stevens.
Okay, well, there we go. At least according to them, they're not being deployed to carry out any other mission aside from clearing out the embassy. But you do wonder, and it's good. It's definitely good to keep track of these things. I think for the future, as I feel like we've been keeping an eye on Haiti pretty regularly in this podcast, and so let's just all remember that that's the case. That currently there is an anti-terrorism squad in Haiti. Okay, what's next? Wait, why is this in this order? Oh, it's a disaster. Hold on. I gotta do something. I'll be right here, but I just gotta reload this page now, because somehow I have everything out of order.
Global News has learned that JTF-2, Canada's elite counter-terrorism and hostage
Stop it.
unit,
God
has deployed...
Okay, there we go. Alright, that makes way more sense now. Okay, this next one is from the AP from a day ago. Italians march over mafia killings. Tens of thousands of people took to the streets of Rome on Thursday protesting against the mafia. They also marched to remember those killed and demand justice. You can kill men, but not their ideas.
The mafia oggi è più forte di
The mafia today is stronger than before.
Oggi le basta comprare e potere economico.
It doesn't kill anymore. Today it suffices with the shadow of economic power. It's corruption. Corruption is the sharpest and most silent weapon that the mafia has today. Memory is the key to keeping the presence of people alive. For some, the danger of the mafia is very close to home. I don't know what that says. Antonio De Caro is the mayor of a small southern city. He lives under escort. Okay, that's enough. Is the mafia gonna see this and quit? You know, fuck you, So Life, okay? Yes, they are. And you can thank me later for it. Okay, pal? Okay, what's next, dickbag? Okay. Focusing on stuff. What's next? Ah, yes. Aftermath of Russian attacks that hit Zaporizhia and Kherson in Ukraine from 17 hours ago. This is the Associated Press.
А тут перервали мы?
Да, тут уже.
Правильно говорит, коллеги, надо ехать, не могут никто.
Okay. So, that was in Ukraine, in Kherson and Zaporizhia. This next one is in Belgorod, which is in Russia. So, they're both attacking both sides. I don't think, does this one have volume? I don't think it does. Oh, there it is.
Пожарные молодцы. Оперативно приехали.
Okay. So yeah, there's still quite a lot of fighting going on between Russia and Ukraine, both on the ground and in the air. And then, oh shit. I forgot there's one more of these I gotta look at. Okay, this is a Reuters report entitled Russian Strikes Plunge Millions in Ukraine into Darkness.
An overnight Russian bombardment on Friday designed to keep Ukraine in darkness. Over 150 missiles and drones were fired by Russia in the largest attack on Ukrainian energy infrastructure of the war to date, leaving 1.2 million without electricity, Kiev says. The country's largest dam in the southern city of Zaporizhia engulfed in flames, though the state hydropower company said there was no risk of a breach. Homes were also hit in the area, with Zaporizhia's local governor telling Ukrainian television there were a number of casualties. This local resident and her child managed to escape.
There were a lot of explosions after the first one. There was so much flying overhead, you couldn't believe it. I had only one goal, to make sure my child was alive. I rescued him from the rubble.
The Ukrainian Air Force said the attacks were concentrated in the regions of Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, and Zaporizhia. Russia's defense ministry said the strikes were part of a series of revenge attacks aimed at punishing Kiev for its earlier incursions into Russian territory, and that they had taken control of the village of Mern in Zaporizhia.
Okay. We're 2 away from Cisco. I don't have a Cisco prepared for this moment right now. But just to quell this whole situation, and you're only 1 like away, I'll give you the option now to pick between the 3 that I have ready. I'll consider this Cisco situation later. I know you want Cisco. I'm aware of this. But right now, I need you to pick 1 for Neo, 2 for Morty, or 3 for Doc Brown. Because I can't run a poll in YouTube chat right now. It's just not possible. I mean, it's going to take up way too much time for me to try and create a Cisco right now. It's out of control. 1 for Neo, 3 for Doc Brown. 1, 2, or 3. 2 is Morty from Rick and Morty. 1 is Neo from The Matrix. 2 is Morty from Rick and Morty. And 3 is Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Right, I see 2 1s. 1, 3. So Neo is in the lead right now, with Doc Brown in second. I don't got Spock. It's 3 Neo votes. Okay. 4, 3, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, fine. Then we're gonna throw Neo into the mix, and we're gonna move on to breaking news. Nearly, well, kind of. At least it was earlier today. You may have already seen it, but this is from BBC News from 9 hours ago, where a blast in Moscow and shooting were reported at a concert hall.
Tonight, reports from Moscow suggesting a number of people have been killed and wounded during a shooting at a concert hall there. Videos posted online also show smoke appearing to emerge from the Crocus concert hall. Now, Russian news agencies say at least 3 people dressed in camouflage opened fire at the venue. In a statement, Moscow's mayor has said a huge tragedy has occurred. There have also been reports that the roof of the theatre building is now on fire. People are still inside that building.
What does Neo have to do with space or time travel? Now that you're asking the question, I'm starting to question my own reasoning for putting Neo in here. Wouldn't you call the Nebuchadnezzar a spaceship? Am I losing my mind? Is the Nebuchadnezzar not a spaceship? What do you call that?
Let's get the very latest with our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg, in Moscow. And Steve, evening to you. Just bring us up to date on what we know about what's going on so far.
Well, this is a developing story. It's still going on. This is what we know so far. That earlier this evening, a number of armed men burst into a concert hall in Moscow, the Crocus City Hall, just before a pop concert, and began shooting. The hall was packed with visitors.
You want John Wick instead of Neo? It's still Keanu Reeves. But yeah, I guess we could switch out Keanu for a different Keanu. It's not a spaceship, it's a sewer ship. A sewer ship? I don't even know what that means.
And mobile phone footage shows scenes of chaos, as you can imagine. You can hear the shots ringing out. Now, there are no official figures yet as to how many people have been killed, but reports of at least 12 people having been killed in this attack. The building is on fire. Possibly a third of the building is on fire, and we believe that dozens of people may still be trapped inside the building. Also reports that a number of the gunmen may have barricaded themselves inside the building. So this is still going on very much, and Russian special forces have been deployed to the scene. Also, 50 ambulances have been called to the scene. So the casualty figures could well rise. As I say, no official figure yet as to how many people.
Yeah, and we're going to move forward. This was the initial report that came out. The next one was from actually, I'm going to move 2 ahead to this one. This is from Al Jazeera, where ISIL claimed responsibility for Moscow concert attack.
We begin with breaking news out of Russia, where gunmen have killed at least 40 people after bursting into a concert hall in Moscow. There were scenes of panic as the attack unfolded at the Crocus City Hall on the outskirts of the...
Okay, yeah, we got John Wick now. Okay, that's what we'll call him. It's a fictional hovercraft. The subterranean hovercraft? Okay, fine. Fine.
Russian capital. Officials say 146 people have been injured. ISIL has claimed responsibility for the attack. Okay, well, this is the scene there right now where firefighters have been battling a blaze at the concert hall. Authorities say the roof is collapsing. Now, a large number of firefighters and ambulance crews remain at the scene.
We've seen the shooting. There are many dead and wounded. A fire started there now.
All I heard was gunshots. That's it.
It's a tragedy. Here in Crocus, the firefighters are at work. The fire area is very noticeable. All the rest will be told after the firefighters finish their job.
Okay, we're going to bring in our correspondent, Dorsa Jabari, who joins us now from Moscow. And as we mentioned there, in the last half hour or so, ISIL has claimed responsibility now. Do we know if the gunmen are still at large, and just how much fear is there in the city tonight?
Well, according to officials, they're still searching for the gunman, so it's not clear whether they're still in this complex or they've managed to escape. We're waiting to hear an update and a briefing from the security personnel who have set up a command post outside this City Hall compound, which is about 20 kilometers northwest of the Kremlin
crazy.
area in Moscow. What we do know is that there have been a number of
the building is
people
collapsing.
evacuated, and it's not.
This video was like, there was still live feed going up till almost the moment I started streaming today. Like, this was breaking news, like, all day.
Clear if anybody's still inside, any civilians are still inside this facility. What we do know is that extensive damage has been sustained by the fire that broke out, as well as dozens of people killed. We've seen the emergency personnel from different parts of Moscow responding to this, according to the mayor of Moscow, who said that this was a horrific, a terrible tragedy, rather. At least 50 ambulances dispatched to help with the search and rescue operation. And the feeling here is that this is a very rare kind of attack that doesn't happen that often. The last time something like this happened in Moscow was in 2011, when a female suicide bomber at an airport detonated herself, killing 40 people.
Okay, well, what are you seeing? This is the news of the day, if you will. The disastrous, unfortunate news. The killing of civilians in Moscow by apparently Islamic State, from what we're being told up to this point. And there's been no reason given for the attack yet. There may have, maybe it may have broken since I started streaming today, but up to this point, at least up to the point that I added this video into my list of stuff, it was still unconfirmed as to why. Okay. On to Africa, although I guess we hit Africa real quick with Burundi earlier. But this is a Reuters piece from 9 hours ago. Kenyan doctors march as national strike drags on.
Hundreds of Kenyan doctors marched through the capital Nairobi on Friday. That's as a nationwide strike for better pay and working conditions entered its second week.
Medical services are not free.
Alfonso Tieno is a medical student.
Apart from being a calling, medicine as a career. It is a career. We are human beings. We need to be paid. We are human beings.
The Kenyan Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, which has over 7,000 members, is demanding a commitment from the government to fulfill collective bargaining agreements that date back to 2017. Among their demands is comprehensive medical cover for doctors and the deployment of 1,200 medical interns at public hospitals. Dr. Dennis Miskela is the union's Deputy Secretary General.
We won't go off until the doctors whose basic salary arrears was promised and awarded by the court 7 years ago and paid.
The strike has left patients without emergency services in some hospitals. That's despite mounting calls for the union and health ministry to negotiate. In a post on X, formerly known as Twitter, Kenya's health ministry said on Thursday that it had begun the process of assigning interns to various healthcare facilities nationwide.
So if you heard what they are striking for, they just want to get healthcare. The doctors just want healthcare. Seems reasonable to me. And interns. So help in healthcare. Seems incredibly logical. If your doctors don't have healthcare, you got a problem. What's next? Oh. This is a quick one. Maybe I should have left this in environmental news, but this is from a day ago. Associated Press: less water flow in Morocco's Malouya River threatens farmers' livelihoods.
كان انا خرج مع الصباح كنهود من الدار حتى الواد كنذوق الماء كما كتشوف عندك.
Why can't, why can't the doctors just doctor each other? Jesus Christ, so like. At least you're thinking out of the box. I'll give you that much. It's technically a solution. I hate it, but it's technically. I mean, they are gonna doctor each other, but I think it just makes sense to give the doctors healthcare.
ذوق الماء كنولي للدار يعني كنسيب البحر قدامي للاسف ما.
Unfortunately, this is the
ما باقي ما
situation.
يتقال كملنا.
What was he saying? I missed whatever you were saying.
كما ما كنولي للدار.
Son of a bitch.
خرج مع الصباح كان انا خرج مع الصباح كنهود من الدار.
When I wake up in the morning, I go to the river, taste the water,
كنذوق الماء
and
كما
immediately return home
كنذوق الماء كنولي للدار.
because that's the sea I'm
يعني كنسيب
tasting.
البحر قدامي للاسف ما كما.
What he's saying is that, well, hold on, I think he does say it, so I'll just keep this going. Unfortunately, this is the situation.
ما باقي ما يتقال كملنا.
Climate change and excessive pumping have left less water flowing through the Morocco's Malouya River, allowing seawater to creep in. I think is what it said. To creep into the waterway.
كان عندي جوج بقرات.
I owned cows. They were my livelihood.
كنشربهم من الواد.
I used to take them to
مع
the river to
المدة
drink.
أنا ما كنعرفش باللي الماء الواد غادي يمرضهم. مع
I didn't
المدة
know they were getting
كيشربوا
sick
الملح
from
يلا
drinking
يلا
salty
واحد العام
water.
ولا بقاو هكا كيشربوا ذاك الماء بقاو في.
At first they stopped eating it, and then they died. That's fucking sad. This guy had 2 cows who clearly he loved very much. And he never noticed that the water had turned salty because of climate change. That is fucked. Okay, what is next? Oh, we're going to quickly look at the Sudan crisis here again today. This is from the Associated Press from 18 hours ago, where refugee camps in Chad are overcrowding and running out of aid.
In Mecho, there are over 40,000 refugees, and the humanitarian situation is, it's hard. The basic needs are water, food, shelter, sanitary solutions as well.
Catholic Relief Services and Caritas Mongo were very good with us. They brought us aid and supported us. May God bless them. They did all they could. This is the second time that they've come here. Another famine in the making. Yup. It's not great. But that's why we keep looking at it. You know, and the fact is, it's barely being talked about in the mainstream news. Most people aren't following Reuters and Associated Press. It's mostly reporters who follow them, I would say, from what I can tell. Yeah, it's a huge fucking problem going on. That's why we probably looked at the Sudan crisis like 3 times in the last week. This... Oh, wait, hold on. Am I ready for this one? Hold on. This dude's name. Yes, okay. Okay, this is going into Indian politics quickly before we head over to deal with all of the stuff that's happened in Gaza over the last 24 hours. But this is from Associated Press 16 hours ago, where Narendra Modi's rival, Arvind Kejriwal, was arrested, sparking protests by supporters in Delhi. This is murder of democracy. It's been going on for a while. They've arrested our leader, Arvind Kejriwal, and look at the timing. When they are trying to wriggle out of the electoral bonds controversy, they are trying to divert the attention of the public. It's like more bang for your money. And I'm going to give you some context into the situation as I felt it was necessary. Arvind is a politician, an activist who is in government. He is currently, as you can see here, now in prison. And it hasn't been made clear, at least in my searches, what for yet. It does seem like he has mostly been on the right side of issues in terms of being against corruption and all sorts of other things, bringing votes on these sorts of things to Indian parliament, I think is what I'm trying to think of how they call it. I think it's just a legislative assembly. However, he has had a few scandals, so he's not perfect. However, if he's fighting against the Hindu nationalists, which I believe he is to some degree, I think that's the sort of person that we should be supporting, even though, like I said, he might not be perfect, it seems like. Knowing is important. Yes, I agree, chat. Okay, what's next? Okay, yep. Now we're heading into Gaza. This is from almost exactly a day ago at this time, where there was footage taken of aid trucks being seen entering North Gaza from Israel.
As much as we know, by our analysis, there is no starvation in Gaza. There is
Sorry, I gotta hear that again.
Starvation in Gaza. There is sufficient, by our analysis, there is no starvation in Gaza. There is sufficient amount of food entering Gaza every day.
Whenever they get one of these IDF guys in front of the camera, I wonder if they give them like a script of like the worst possible, most inaccurate things to say. I'm just not sure how it happens every fucking time. Oh god. Might want to run that analysis again, bucko. Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. Whoopsies, didn't mean to do that. Pushing forward, this is from 21 hours ago, where the EU calls on Israel to allow more aid into Gaza.
The UN Secretary-General's presence at this meeting made sure the crisis in the Middle East was high on the agenda.
On arrival, Antonio Guterres drew attention to the mounting civilian death toll.
That is unprecedented in my times as Secretary General. And a basic principle of international humanitarian law is the protection of civilians. We must stick to principles, in the Ukraine as in Gaza, without double standards.
The EU, like the UN, is demanding a ceasefire and urgent measures to address the worsening humanitarian crisis. The final summit communiqué will call for a sustainable ceasefire and the release of hostages. EU leaders welcomed news of a new US Security Council resolution calling for the same.
Israel has been aggressed by Hamas. Israel has the right to defend. It has to do that in accordance with international law. Hostages has to be free. And I am happy that the US is going to present a proposition to the Security Council asking for the first time for a ceasefire together with the freedom of the hostages.
A number of leaders.
Okay, I think we got the point of this situation. And let's move forward slightly to the thing that he was just talking about, where the U.S. brought a ceasefire resolution to the UN, and if you're unaware, didn't go great.
The U.S. is planning to put forward a resolution for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza to a vote of the UN Security Council on Friday. The resolution text, seen by Reuters, says a, quote, immediate and sustained ceasefire lasting roughly 6 weeks would protect civilians and allow for the delivery of humanitarian assistance to the enclave, where famine looms due to extreme food shortages. The new resolution also expresses support for the ongoing peace talks in Qatar, mediated by the US, Qatar, and Egypt. Negotiations there are focused on a 6-week truce and the release of 40 Israeli hostages in return for hundreds of jailed Palestinians. In recent days, Israel has launched attacks on the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza, where it says Hamas gunmen are holding out, which the militant group denies. As it continues its offensive on the hospital, Israel said it would send its spy chief David Barnea to join peace talks in Qatar's capital Doha on Friday. Speaking in Cairo on Thursday, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken expressed cautious optimism the talks would produce a deal.
We've been working, as you know, with Egypt, with Qatar, and with Israel to put a strong proposal on the table. Hamas responded to that. The negotiators continue to work. The gaps are narrowing, and we're continuing to push for an agreement in Doha. There's still difficult work to get there, but I continue to believe it's possible.
Those against?
Oh.
Washington has traditionally shielded its longtime ally Israel at the UN. Earlier in the war, the U.S. was averse to the word ceasefire and vetoed measures that included calls for an immediate truce. But in recent weeks, the U.S. has incrementally ramped up pressure.
Okay, that's right. I was right. Okay, going to the next one, because another video shortly after this came out from 14 hours ago. And yes, you are all correct. At least I think most of you are correct. I need glasses, but yeah, I don't know why I don't just wear my glasses. I just hate it. I have glasses. By need, I mean I should use. This is very shortly after it with the AP, where Russia and China vetoed the U.S.-sponsored UN resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
I shall put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2024/239 please raise their hand? Those against. The result of the voting is as follows: 11 votes in favor, 3 votes against, 1 abstention.
Well, there you go, folks. However, the let's get a little deeper into this situation, I guess you might say. Incremental change. That works. Yes, correct. Incremental change is always working for us. It's never not worked. And if you say it hasn't, you're a liar. And I'm kind of kidding. Because, seriously, 90% of the time it doesn't work. And we just backslide further. You wear your glasses where you can find them. The fact is I can see my glasses case from here, but it would require me to stop doing what I'm currently doing, which is making sure that you all get your stream itch satisfied. Who are you calling a tanky? Okay, what am I doing? Yes. This is this next video is from Democracy Now!, where they discuss the ceasefire resolution put forward by the United States.
Report.
Whoops. Sorry, Amy.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is back in Israel, where he just met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This comes as the United States has introduced a UN Security Council resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza. Despite mounting international pressure, Israel's continuing its war on the besieged territory. The Israeli military raid on Al-Shifa, Gaza's largest hospital, has entered a fifth day. Hundreds of Palestinians have been reported killed or detained by Israeli forces. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to go ahead with an invasion of Rafah, where more than half of Gaza's entire population has sought refuge. Blinken spoke Thursday from Cairo, Egypt.
The need for an immediate, sustained ceasefire with the release of hostages. That would create space to surge more humanitarian assistance to relieve the suffering of many people and to build something more enduring.
A vote at the UN Security Council on the U.S. proposal could come as early as today, but the language of the resolution has been criticized for not going far enough. A group of non-permanent members of the UN Security Council has drafted a separate resolution calling for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. Up until now, the U.S. has repeatedly blocked calls for a Gaza ceasefire. On Thursday, Blinken also spoke about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Children should not be dying of malnutrition in Gaza or anywhere else for that matter. 100%.
Is Phyllis Bennis, fellow at the Institute for Policy Studies. She also serves as an international advisor to Jewish Voice for Peace. Her new article in The Hill is titled, "Gaza Shows Food Airdrops Often Take Lives Instead of Saving Them." She also recently wrote a piece for Al Jazeera headlined, "What Lies Behind the Biden Administration's Changing Ceasefire Language." Well, let's start there. Phyllis, if you can talk about what the U.S. has introduced into the UN Security Council. It could be voted on today.
The Gates of Delirium report. Are you referring to me or to Democracy Now? What is that supposed to mean? Hurtful. Hurtful. If you say incremental changes don't work, you're a tanky, not a liar. Ah, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. God. Okay.
And also, what could be voted on are is the resolution that has been adopted by or sponsored by 8 of the elected members of the Security Council.
Thanks, Amy. You know, what we're looking at here is a lot of playing with words. What is different is the language of the Biden administration. We heard it yesterday from Secretary of State Blinken. We're hearing it from President Biden. We're hearing it from others using the word ceasefire, saying immediate ceasefire in some cases. We're seeing the New York Times is saying that the U.S. is introducing a resolution at the Security Council calling for an immediate ceasefire. That's not the case. What the U.S. resolution calls for, and we should be clear, there has not been a formal distribution of what the U.S. is actually going to put on the table for the vote this morning. There's at least 3 different versions circulating around, but they're all about the same on the critical description. It's in the first paragraph, the first operative paragraph of the resolution, uses the language of an immediate ceasefire, but it doesn't actually call for a ceasefire. What it does is recognize the importance of a ceasefire and then says, and therefore we should support the negotiations that are underway in Doha, in Qatar. These are the negotiations that have been underway for weeks. They are mainly focused on the release of hostages, as well as the parameters of a short-term ceasefire, probably 6 weeks. But the key thing is that the U.S. draft does not call for an actual Security Council call for a ceasefire. The language of the 8 of the 10 elected members of the Security Council is much simpler and much more direct. It says explicitly that the Security Council demands an immediate ceasefire respected by all parties, leading to a sustainable ceasefire. Period, full stop. The U.S. language is very...
Yeah, that seems very simple and to the point.
...convoluted. It's various versions of the Security Council determines the imperative of an immediate and sustained ceasefire to protect civilians on all sides, and then says something about...
Oh my God.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
Seriously though, what in the fuck are we doing? We're living in a land where the government only plays semantics.
And therefore, we unequivocally support the negotiations that are underway. So it takes all of the authority out of the Security Council, makes the Council into essentially a group of cheerleaders for the existing negotiations that are underway, and takes away any additional pressure that an actual Security Council demand for an immediate ceasefire would have. Because Security Council resolutions, as you know, Amy, and I think most of our listeners know, is part of international law. It's enforceable. It doesn't mean that it would be enforced, but it's a very powerful signal, something that an acknowledgement of the importance of a ceasefire is simply not that. It's not that.
Do you think that the United States introduced this ceasefire resolution because the group of 8 of the unelected members of the Security Council are introducing their resolution? And if that went forward, could the U.S. afford to veto it?
I think that the U.S. resolution has been in preparation for quite some time. The resolution by the 8 of the 10 elected members is a new development. This emerged only in the last several days. So I don't think it's directly in response to that. It is clearly in response to the massive escalation of political pressure, both from governments and from civil society, certainly here in the United States, but also around the world, where there is demand, there is outrage at the United States' position at the United Nations, which has been a consistent pattern that's gone on for months now, of vetoing in the Security Council any calls for a ceasefire and voting against it in the General Assembly, where it has no veto, and using pressure, economic pressure, political pressure, on other countries to encourage, or in some cases really pressure them to vote against these resolutions. There is outrage growing, and the U.S. government, and the Biden administration in particular, is very, very isolated as a result. Here in the United States, we're seeing a huge escalation in the opposition to the Biden administration insistence on continuing to support Israel, sending military aid, despite the change in language, the recognition of famine that we just heard again from Secretary of State Blinken, the recognition of the humanitarian crisis that is killing people in the level of hundreds every day. And when we're hearing from the humanitarian experts that the level of famine is at 55% of the entire population of northern Gaza right now, is at the highest possible level of absolute famine, which
Okay, I think that we get the point there. The wording of the United... And the thing is, I looked for it, and I didn't quite realize it until I watched that video, but they haven't actually released a official version of the ceasefire agreement that was voted on, which confuses me greatly. But her reading of it, of at least what's been circulated to the press, makes it sound completely unnecessary in its wording, being like very circuitous and just not to the point. You just saw a Visit California. Apparently everyone plays hot potato with the what? I'm very confused. Okay, what are we looking at next here? Oh, okay. Well, this is from earlier in the day. These are just some video of airdrops going into Gaza. You just got a commercial? Wait, how could you get a commercial on this channel? It's not even monetized. Better have been another channel, because if it was on this channel, we got problems. Anyway, just figured we'd watch the not entirely pointless, but very much not as helpful as it should be airdrops going into Gaza still. This next video is from Blinken, from Secretary Blinken, who landed in Israel earlier in the day to discuss with Netanyahu some stuff. Apparently.
Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, as you know, is in Tel Aviv. He's met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He's speaking now at the airport. Let's listen in.
As I did as well in my conversations with Egyptian colleagues and the Qatari Foreign Ministry yesterday. I also had a chance to meet with the hostage families again, and it's hard to describe what they're going through every single day. We made progress in the last couple of weeks on the hostage negotiations, closing gaps, but almost by definition, when you get down to the last items, they tend to be the hardest. So there's still a lot of work to be done, hard work to be done, but we're determined to try to get it done. We also talked about the imperative of surging and sustaining humanitarian assistance for the people in Gaza. 100% of the population of Gaza is acutely food insecure. 100% is in need of humanitarian assistance. There have been some positive steps taken in recent days to improve the situation, but it's not enough. And we talked about what needs to happen to get much more assistance to many more people more effectively. We also talked about Rafah.
Yeah, God. It's so difficult to listen to this guy. Move it over to here, where they actually discuss what he said. Normal human beings discuss what he said. Fucking hell. Hold on.
We share Israel's goal of defeating Hamas, which is responsible for the worst massacre of the Jewish people
in the region. Well, let's now go to Hamda Salahut. She's in occupied East Jerusalem, keeping an eye on this visit for us. Hamda, there are still clearly some broad differences of opinion between Blinken and Netanyahu?
That's exactly right. There have been disagreements between American and Israeli officials for some months now, specifically when it comes to this ground invasion into Rafah. Netanyahu, in fact, speaking earlier today, saying that the ground invasion will happen with or without U.S. support, that if it doesn't come with U.S. support, Israel will be forced to do it alone. The Americans have actually asked the Israelis, at the request of U.S. President Joe Biden, to send a delegation to Washington to brief them on plans of how exactly this ground invasion is going to work, with nearly 1.5 million Palestinians seeking refuge in Gaza's southernmost city. Earlier today, you also had the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, who said that there is nowhere for these Palestinian civilians in Rafah to go to. And then we just heard from Blinken, who said that this is a war that will require humanitarian, political, and military type of thinking, not just one way, which Netanyahu says is military pressure. So the continued disputes between American and Israeli officials are quite prevalent. Now, when it comes to these negotiations in Doha, Blinken is saying that there is progress, and the last bit of it is always the hardest, these final sticking points. But during the same hour, Israeli officials speaking anonymously to Israeli media have said, quote, that there is no real progress in these talks, and that's because of sticking points from both sides, with that Hamas wanting to see an end to the war and the Israelis saying that even if there is a long pause in the fighting, the war will continue after that, especially when it comes to this ground invasion into Rafah that is seemingly causing now some problems between the Americans and their Israeli counterparts.
Hamda Salhut keeping an eye on that Blinken visit for us in Israel. Thank you very much, Hamda. Well, I'm joined now again on set by our diplomatic editor, James Bays. James, I'm curious about what you made of Blinken's tone, because as we heard from Hamda, literally earlier after that meeting with Netanyahu, Netanyahu walked out and said he's going to go ahead with his Rafah offensive with or without Washington's support. But now we've literally got Blinken getting on a plane at the airport saying, oh, no, they're still trying to convince them.
I'm afraid to say that Secretary of State Blinken's comments were exactly the same comments as he made before he started the trip, when he arrived in Cairo, and as he was leaving, he said the same thing. He hasn't changed the script. But what really went on in the meeting, I think, will be very, very interesting, because there
are people getting ads on the stream. I'm confused.
Big problems between Israel and the United States right now. There is the problems of the Rafah offensive, which clearly is the #1 problem. The US says that should not happen, and the Israelis say it's going to happen whatever. If you support us, fine. If not, we're going to go ahead anyway. There's the problem of humanitarian aid. If that resolution had passed today, there are sections in that resolution that were really very critical of Israel. They didn't name Israel, but they did say that there need to be lifting of all the barriers to international aid, many more crossing points, a maritime route into Gaza, all of things that aren't happening because Israel is not allowing them to happen. And then with regard to the way forward longer term, Israel opposes the presence of the Palestinian Authority to run Gaza. That is the US's preferred solution. Israel opposes the idea of a two-state solution. And add on to that the fact that now we're in a position where the United States is in a really difficult position at the UN Security Council. They've flagged the idea that they support the idea of a ceasefire, even though their resolution, many say, wasn't really a proper explicit demand for a ceasefire. So they now may well be in a position that they're going to have to either abstain or vote for a resolution for a ceasefire, creating yet another obstacle and problem between the Netanyahu administration and the Biden administration.
Okay, cool. What am I doing? Okay, no ads. This is good. This is good. I think I said that. I can't remember if I did, but that does make me feel better. I was a little concerned. Before we do what we're gonna do next, I I'm gonna do this real quick, just because. Hey, how's it going? Just sitting here poolside enjoying this, this little stream that we're all doing together. If you want to become even more galactic, you can go to my Patreon at this link in the chat, giving you access to all sorts of galactic benefits, including an ability to put an emoji or picture onto sets like this here, Space Pool, as well as shoutouts and exclusive content. Really helps the stream, especially because it's not even monetized, as we've been talking about. Alright, let's back here. However, we're not going to be getting back to serious things, as some people have been suggesting that we end the streams on such low notes. They go to bed depressed. I've decided to include more fun things here at the very end of the streams. So let's watch this. I'm sure many of you, maybe not all of you, have seen this, but it's just a a silly thing to do here going into the end of the stream. Oops.
You ready to back down?
No thanks. I'll say stuff about Biden over the
Okay.
thing.
Okay, I want to bite you so much.
And if you don't know what this is bad lip reading from the State of the Union 2023. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the lip reading is not even as bad as he claims. Like it genuinely feels accurate sometimes.
Told me Madonna's Dill Donut Boy is here, you know, so where is he? Francois is a cool name.
Did you bring your skeleton card? Oh, you don't know what that is? You ought to be embarrassed.
Yeah, sure.
You ought to be embarrassed.
I'm
You
well,
ought to be
thank you.
embarrassed.
How are you?
You ought to be embarrassed,
Uh-huh,
son.
sure,
You got
man.
me?
Well, that's your opinion.
Ass. You're an
Oh,
ass.
Yeah, you're very formal. Quite a gentleman, aren't you?
Quite a gentleman, aren't you?
To spark all your praise, I do headstands. I wandered to here. How'd you get there? How do I get to the patio? Well, geez, you're tall. Rock on, Rocket Fart.
You know, just watching that guy, who knows what he's saying?
Moisture, no. Hey, I want your hair. Is that weird to say? You're not me.
What? I don't know this.
Hey, you take my knife, then you're cutting my chicken. You got owls around here?
Pretend you liked what I said.
Oh, Mr. President. The owls went out the door behind us, I think. Listen, I have the thing. I never met you. So how do I give you the tip? Yeah, we shouldn't talk all that stuff right now. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll talk later, you know. Hey, I'm sorry. He had quite a scent. Oh! I want a huggy. Come here. You smell neat, like a magpie. So good.
It looks good. And it looks hard.
Is this the talented man? Oh. Miss Poppin' Sweet Mama, hey, let me pay your check. You're beautiful. Hey, listen, I got a tetanus shot right here. Oh, I sensed you, Dorito.
So we're supposed to make Joe not ask questions.
You got it. Hey, I'm Rocky Flanagan. Good to meet you. I don't see your shadow. Is this the right place to be? I'm Grizzly Newmac. Yeah, seriously, y'all can call me Hawaiian Brown, but never at night.
Now you lose a thumb.
Where do I go? Up this way? Okay. So, over here now?
He genuinely looked concerned about that.
Brown, but never at night.
Now you lose a thumb.
Where do I
Oh,
go?
no.
Go up this way? Okay. So, over here now? No? Oh. Doug Jenkins. Hello, I'm Richard Theismann III. You know, the soul of America is the gray-brown on some of your sheets. Hey, don't tempt me to cry any tears on your towels, on your gooseberry towels. Ted Picard is here. That isn't really... You know what? I'll just go with it. Let me introduce you to the greatest marionette talent representative, Vashti Bodine.
I'm not... No, no.
What a fantastic
Ooh, wow, we got Biden up to 101 years old. Impressive.
performer. Hey, why is there a sloth over there? Oh, wait, that's just Mitch. Rap performances. Tonight it's Overlord and the Jersey Jives. Last week I saw Democritus and the graduation of Morgan Kane. No bull, y'all. My eardrum heads are about entirely broken.
You hear this?
Soapstone. What the hell's that? Why did I say it? Okay, how come I'm freezing here? Oh, what was I gonna tell you? I forget. Say what? Oh yeah, it's Fix the Economy time.
Yep,
So tonight I'm
yep,
calling
yep.
for this, where everybody gets $35.
Yes.
He did it. He did it.
Because 75% of $30 is $80. Look! Hey babe, look at the flying cloud. I'm sure you're seeing the same dogs I am, right? Look at the grumpiness of old Americans. You guys are
It's
dragging
true.
me down.
That is so true.
We could always have a banana. Choppy chop a banana. Break up a banana. Because the joys of the banana last several years.
Huh.
You know?
I did not know that.
Seriously, I mean, what the heck? Cows are people too, aren't they? That's why I got a donkey in my office.
Nuh-uh, you do not.
Well, I mean, it's a poster.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
Hey, ligers are only in fiction.
That's what you think.
What you need is percussion. If you have friends who fancy percussion, then play as much shaker as you can. If you're crying there just waiting at the hospital, I will defeat Tony. If he was wrestling for something here, I'd drop him. I'd defeat Tony. I would. I'd make a liger take him away.
You don't deserve ligers.
Hey guys, very soon after this,
I would just like to take this opportunity to tell everybody here on stream that we all deserve ligers. At least in our imaginations.
buying millions of ligers. Ow, there's the loudest buzz sound in my ear, because sometimes I get like this thing in my ear, you know? But normally not. Hey, remember how golden ice was in 2 different flavors?
Yes.
Well, not me. I don't even know what golden ice is. Hey, folks, can you talk about how you're standing up so much? Are there spiders? Spiders? Ooey. Those live in the darkness. A lot of your homes always smell like dog.
So true.
And you don't even know it.
What are we gonna do?
Check it out.
about that situation?
Harry Styles just bought the Titanic. Is that true?
I don't know.
Oh, wow. I spy a ghost. Oh, it's okay. You're at the fair. But to be honest, Ghost, I need you to know the lights are...
I don't know who that dude is. I'm pretty sure he's a Republican, but I don't know. I don't know anything beyond that. I can't remember his name. But that shot they keep using over and over of him, just like with his mouth wide open, is it's fucking perfect.
Because it's not the fair. It's not the fair. Oh, hey, you know what? Yeah, I spotted a female ghost this day last year. Is she your sister? What? Bog Lorena. That ghost is wicked. It's got Bigfoot smile, drinking a 45. No touching the pony! He's lethargic! I leave you with this. The Goblin Swarm's lead captain is on shrooms.
Alright, chat. Well, we got through the Doomer Report on Friday. We did a great job, I think. All of you should give yourselves a hand. You're now slightly more informed than you were earlier today. Probably. Well, it's been another interesting week, filled with doom, darkness. But it's been fantastic having all of you folks here with me. One might say it's essential. Till I see you next time. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. You thought I forgot? No chance. Couldn't forget about these people. Gabby and Aaron W. Both making the right decision in life and becoming galactic patrons. Helping produce this show. An intrinsic and vital contribution. Write those names down, or commit them to memory. They're important. And if you would like to help produce the show, you too can go to my Patreon link and become a galactic producer.
People from China, they love me.
The box is full of Pepe!